you. Is
Oh,
that better?
okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so it is recording. So you guys, I'm just going to say welcome tonight. We have Dr. Warren with us, Dr. Kyle Warren from Restorative Health Solutions. And ultimately, I'd say just in a nutshell, that he really specializes in going beyond what a medical doctor can do. And, you know, the goal is to get to the root cause of whatever type of issue that you're having, rather than just prescribing a whole bunch of medication that probably isn't going to solve the problem long term. So we have been working with them for, I don't know, like 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, wow. I can't believe it's already been that long, but yeah, I think so.
And personally, I'm on my second round of working with Dr. Warren and trying to figure out, I think we kind of have uncovered what's blocking my weight loss. So once I get this tooth issue under control, we'll get back at that.
Yeah, the tooth thing come up, man.
I know, right? So Kyle Warren, welcome. We're so thankful you are here. And you guys, if you have questions along the way, there's the little reaction button on the bottom. You can click on that and see how there's a little hand right up there by me. That just shows you, you can click on that and you can raise your hand, and that way we will know that you want to ask a question, or just if you're muted, unmute yourself and speak up. Just that's ask. Okay too. Yeah, so. All right, so I'll stop talking and we get to hear some good wisdom from Dr. Warren.
Well, I hope so. I think that's the goal. So we've been doing this with, Eric and Pura Vida and Tracy for a little while. And I'm going to try to talk today in kind of the effect of like hormones and how they kind of affect weight and body composition and health. All the hormones are definitely a huge topic to cover. But we'll just kind of cover some main high points. If anybody has any specific questions or wants me to dig a little farther into anything, I certainly can. But these are questions we get a ton about, and so I'll do my best to kind of try and unpack a little bit. So I'm okay. I think I just hit, and do I go here and there? Okay, so we'll see here. Is everybody okay if I just leave the videos up just a little bit? Just kind of roll. So mastering hormones, they're little chemical messengers that affect how we work. And we find they're really important because they can kind of screw things up. Hormones really are just a message in a bottle. And they're a message in your system to do something. And so when we go over each hormone today, I'm going to go through this hormone tells your body to do this. So if you are missing this message, or if you have a lot of these messages, your body will start to alter because it's going to do, a something. Okay, so I'm going to just start with some general stats. How fat is America? More than 1/3 of adults in the United States are obese, and another 32.5% are overweight. I think this is really interesting. When I first started about 15 years ago, we actually had a lot of people who were concerned about obesity. There's been a real big trend towards, I think, not fat shaming people. And even if you walk around Target, my wife has noticed this too, that, when she was a young girl, she struggled with body images and some eating things. And all the models, when you walked in the store, were, size zeros, right? And now when you go to Target, you have a variety of different sizes. One of the most common questions we get now is people wondering if they're underweight. Although I find interesting, we have some of these people, we actually have I remember we had a guy who was 5'8", and we got him below 200 pounds, and he was worried about being underweight. And he just had gone from the chart from obese to overweight, and he was like, am I too light? Which is a question we get surprisingly more and more in the last few years. So we're going to talk about kind of healthy weight and how it works. But being overweight, one of the problems we have with it is, if we look at two top conditions, heart disease and Alzheimer's, your number one risk factor is really obesity for both these conditions. Okay, and with obesity comes diabetes or metabolic syndrome. If you were trying to give yourself Alzheimer's, if that was your goal, the number one thing I would tell you is be diabetic as soon as possible. Okay, and specifically, we're talking about type 2 diabetes. Being a type 2 diabetic is the number one risk factor towards any kind of dementia. So when we talk about weight, it's not just about body image or these things. It is really about it's kind of a long-term health is what we're really looking at. And when we have people in the office who are struggling with weight, we're always trying to work on, can we get you healthier? What in your health is affecting your, is affecting weight? So that's how we're going to kind of look at it, because it's linked to all these other health conditions, okay? Now, this is a slide that I really like because it's what everybody kind of believes. This is how it works, right? Calories we burn versus calories we eat, right? Calories in, calories out is the way weight works. And what I really argue with a lot of people is this is true. This is not, it's not that this isn't true. It makes a lot of assumptions about how you control your metabolism and about what you eat and how it controls your metabolism. So there's a lot of assumptions that go into this, kind of the eat less, exercise more kind of model, that really start to break down, especially when we get into hormone problems. And I just say, is this true or is this false? And I would say it's kind of both. It is true, but there's a whole lot more complicated than this, eat more, exercise a ton kind of picture. Okay, so here's just what we'll cover today. I'm just going to cover your big hormone problems. So thyroid, stress, insulin, estrogen, and testosterone. I'm just going to cover kind of the big highlights here. All right. So I said before that hormones were messages. So thyroid is your own metabolism. Thyroid tells the cells of your body to burn energy. If you don't have thyroid hormone, you will not, your body, this calories burning, calories we burn with low thyroid hormone does not happen. So thyroid hormone will slow down or speed up this what calories are you burning kind of equation. Okay. Now the next two hormones, cortisol and insulin, also start to adjust what you burn. So cortisol, you can burn calories under stress, okay? But interesting enough, you cannot burn fat. Your body will burn sugar under stress, which is why what do you crave when you're stressed? You crave sweets. And your body can burn protein. Now the problem is most of the time the protein you're burning is your own muscles. So you'll burn away your muscles and you'll eat sugar, which is not a great combination. And when you eat sugar, that raises your insulin hormone. And insulin is a hormone that tells your body to store fat. The message that insulin communicates to your body is, I want you to take this and I want you to store it as fat. I don't want you to burn fat. I want you to store fat. Now, estrogen and testosterone are different sex hormones. Classically, we think of estrogen as female. Estrogen is the hardest hormone to detoxify. You can run through testosterone in about 12 minutes. Estrogen takes 4 to 6 hours. So most of our estrogen problems are a detoxification problem. We'll talk about that when we get to the estrogen. But estrogen is so much harder to clear than any other hormone we have. And women have much more testosterone than men. Although men are gaining on them, we'll talk about that too. 40% of breast reductions are done on men. Okay. And then testosterone, DHA is your ability to build muscle, right? Classically male hormones, although also females need these. But it's not necessarily about burning fat, it's about building muscle. So it's a little bit on the other side of when we're talking about physique. Okay. All right, that's what we're going to try to cover. So I'm just going to jump into thyroid. Does anyone have any questions on this slide before I jump over? Okay, we're cruising. Okay.
I like that. That is so clear. So clear, just simple and clear.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hormones are, in essence, each hormone just tells your body to do one thing. It really does. Okay, so thyroid, top 4 symptoms of low thyroid are unhealthy hair, skin, and nails. Losing hair in females, the number 1 cause of hair loss in females is an undiagnosed thyroid problem. Okay. Number 2 is fatigue. Number 3 is depression or anxiety with or without sleep problems. And number 4 is the weight problem. I think when we think thyroid, people think weight's actually the most common problem. It's actually the 4th most common symptom. There's a couple of books. Amy Myers has the thyroid book. Isabella Wentz has a thyroid book. Isabella Wentz is someone who actually didn't have the weight problem. She had the anxiety, the fatigues, and problems, but she didn't have the weight problems. So she said you can't have a thyroid problem unless you have a weight problem. That's not true, but it is very common to have trouble losing weight. Now, the type of weight you have when you have a thyroid, and I have a lot of pictures in here. I try to make them kind of funny, but also not too graphic. I'm trying to balance in between pictures all the time, but the kind of weight you have in your thyroid is weight all over. It's not in one particular area. Thyroid is a very puffy weight. If you ever watched the Willy Wonka series where the girl eats the gum and then blows up into a blueberry, that's kind of the weight that you feel like when your thyroid goes wrong. It's a very puffy all over kind of a weight. Okay. And this is where we go, calories we burn versus calories we eat. Well, if your thyroid's off, you won't burn your assumed number of calories. So most commonly, we're dealing with thyroid being low. About 90% of thyroid problems are low thyroid, which means you'll have low calories burned, which means you'll start to gain weight because you are not actually burning the calories we're assuming you're burning. That's what this does to metabolism. So it starts to tilt this, you're not burning enough calories. Thyroid controls your metabolism. You'll have a low metabolism. Some people will notice they have a low temperature. You'll feel tired. You can feel depressed. If I take energy away from your brain, you feel depressed. If I take energy away from your gut, you'll be constipated. Everything is low and slow. Okay. Okay, so here's one of our big fighting points with thyroid. And we used to give a whole speech on thyroid, so I'm going to be a little bit brief, but you need a very complete profile test if you're really looking at thyroid. And endocrinologists do not do this. They'll run just the TSH. I have a slide right here. How to fail at thyroid. Running only one thyroid test is a failure. There's my nice picture, right? So you really need a more complete testing profile. Okay. Anyone take their car in for regular maintenance? You know, go in for an oil check or something. And they've got all these different things that they check, right? They'll check your tires, they'll check your radiator, they'll check your filter, they'll check the oil. Well, running just the TSH is, and your doctor will say something like, well, it's a very sensitive test. It is. It's a really good test. This TSH test is really the one they want to run. And we go, but it's like checking the tires. But I'm the best tire checker in the world. Like, okay, but if your oil doesn't work, then checking the tires won't find it. And so we know if you follow the standard, which is just to run this one test, sometimes they'll run a free T4 as well. So sometimes you'll get two tests, but most people just get one. It takes an average of 8 years to find the problem if you're running one test. That's 8 years of growing symptoms. What symptoms? 8 years of this. Oh, man, I'm so tired. Man, I'm struggling with depression. Oh, you're just a mom. It's okay, right? This is a extremely dominant female condition, 8-to-1 females to men. Okay, 32 million women Americans, women in America with this. Okay, so we really need more complete testing for thyroid, particularly if you are a woman, if you have any of those symptoms, and if you had changes after having kids or after having menopause. So if your story goes, man, I wasn't like this till I had Johnny. Then after Johnny, it was like, man, postpartum was hard and I've never been the same since that kid, right? The most common times that thyroid pops up is puberty, pregnancy, and menopause. It's not usually during the pregnancy. It's almost always a postpartum that was very difficult. Okay? And sometimes you'll see with one kid, it was there a little bit and then it got better when you were pregnant. And then by the second or third or fourth kid, it was, kept going down. Okay, so if that's how your story goes, we become very suspicious about the thyroid and we want to test a little bit. Okay. Any questions anybody wants to ask about thyroid? This is a really common condition. Okay, I will roll. Okay, anybody like my picture? I like this one. I thought that was pretty good. Okay, insulin. Now, we said thyroid is kind of overall fat puffiness. Okay, insulin really puts weight in two specific places when we really think about it. It's this back weight. So when we're getting kind of these back rolls is typically an insulin type weight, and it's love handles. Okay. So that's a kind of way we really start to see happening with insulin. Okay. You certainly get it all over, but that's where insulin loves to put your weight. And remember, insulin tells you to store fat. That's what it says. That hormone tells you to store fat. Okay. Now, when we talk about calories we burn and calories we eat, what the thing about insulin is that you can control your insulin levels by your activity and your food. So if you are trying to not store fat, you want to burn fat, you wouldn't want to eat or live in a way that would promote really high insulin levels, okay? Let's talk about sugar. Sugar is the way to raise insulin. If you have sugar or quick carbohydrates, your body will respond by raising insulin, telling you to then store it as fat, okay? Now here's the problem we run into, okay? 200 years ago, the average American ate 2 pounds of sugar a year. Two. In 1970, we ate 123 pounds of sugar per year. Today, the average American consumes almost 152 pounds of sugar in 1 year. This is 3 pounds a week. 6 cups of sugar a week. Okay. We find this ironic. Nutritionists suggest that Americans should get only 10% of their calories from sugar. Okay, 10% is still a huge amount. 10% is still 50 pounds of sugar a year. Okay. So here's what's hard is, let's say you are eating a third as much sugar as your neighbor who's eating 150, right? You're still eating 50. This is still 25 times more sugar than you should be eating. It's so hard. I don't think people realize how much sugar that we eat on. It's so abnormal. It's so, and this eating sugar constantly tells you make insulin, store fat, make insulin, store fat, make insulin, store fat. And so we, a lot of times when people are trying to lose weight, will make you write down everything you eat, and I start to label desserts, okay? Now, to me, a turtle mocha is a dessert, right? A lot of these coffee drinks are desserts. A pop is a dessert, right? It's not just cookies. And here's what we kind of need to look at. So here's where people get sugar. Now, what most people think is, oh, I don't eat a lot of candy. You know, this 5% right here. Well, I don't eat candy, Dr. Warren. This is not my issue, right? Now, some people tell me, yeah, I eat a lot of candy. It does happen. But most people, when I tell them they eat sugar, they go, wow, I don't do this. What they're doing is they're doing juices. They're doing fruit juices. They're drinking a lot of fruit juice. Baked goods, right? And what do we bake? We bake cakes and we bake cupcakes and treats and things like this, right? Okay. Now, we used to reduce this when people went gluten-free. We used to tell people, go gluten-free. Well, now you can get gluten-free. Girl Scout cookies, gluten-free. Oreos, gluten-free. Everything, you can get gluten-free. So you can eat just as much processed sugar eating gluten-free now as you could. 10 years ago, it wasn't possible. So, and you'll see soft drinks. Oh my goodness, right? And I always start to put coffee drinks in here now. This is the new thing we're seeing. I don't drink pop. Do you know if you get a large turtle mocha from Caribou Coffee, a can of Mountain Dew has 43 ounces of sugar in it. A can of Mountain Dew. A large turtle mocha from Caribou Coffee has 103 grams. It has 2.5 Mountain Dews in a turtle mocha as far as sugar content goes. So we get to this and go, oh my goodness. So a lot of times we're starting to dig out your sugar and just say, okay, we just got to lessen this load, right? All right. The other part to this is, besides just consuming sugar, what do you do that keeps your insulin sensitive? So what you want is you want a little bit of insulin to work for your body. So you don't have to keep raising and raising and raising insulin. This is exercise. And the problem we have in America is classically we're very sedentary. We eat a lot of sugar. This is literally the recipe for having obesity from insulin. So this is almost always 100% changeable. Even if you're already diabetic, this is 100% changeable. But before it causes diabetes, this typically causes obesity. Long before it causes diabetes. You can be big for years before you'll officially become diabetic, right? So when I highlight thyroid, I did want to say this, when I highlight thyroid, if we're going to pick a lifestyle thing, the number one thing, if you know you have a thyroid problem and are diagnosed, you really shouldn't eat gluten, which is wheat, basically. There's about a 75% chance that you do so much better if you're on a gluten-free diet. There's about a 25% chance that isn't enough for you if you're a thyroid patient and you need to eat like a paleo type diet, a grain-free type diet. There's about a 75% chance a gluten-free diet works very well. If we're talking about insulin being your problem, it's not necessarily a gluten problem. It's much more of a just processed food sugar problem. Okay. I once had someone tell me they thought they were having a problem because they didn't want to eat peas because they were starchy. I have never had someone come into me with insulin from all the green peas they ate. It's never happened, not in 15 years, okay? We count people. Last person we did a dialogue, I counted 24 desserts a week and 4 vegetables. Right. So if you just line up and go, I think you're having dessert 3 to 4 times a day, and you ate 4 vegetables all week. Right. And this is really where insulin starts to get you. So this is the blood testing we really like for this. I could have added triglycerides as well, but the key point I want to make here is people will run this fasting glucose and this hemoglobin A1C because your doctor's checking for diabetes. And these tests are very good, but the hormone insulin will go high long before the blood sugar goes high. The blood sugar only goes high when insulin fails. So if we're worried about health, we really want to know the insulin level. Now, they'll flag insulin at like 20, because by the time it's getting up to 20 and 25, you're going to start being diabetic. We want the insulin less than 5. That's our healthy range, okay? That's our healthy range. This is the test that you're asking for that's abnormal when you're looking at weight, is this hormone. And this test is like $30. This is not expensive. It's unusual, but it's not expensive, okay? All right. Okay, let's talk about cortisol and stress. Okay, now theoretically you have 4 times as many stress hormone receptors in your abdomen as you have anywhere else on your body, which means if you're a very, very high stress person, we tend to start to put weight on the front of our stomach. Okay. So it's typically belly fat. And you usually have you have smaller arms and legs. So people will have a big torso with smaller arms and legs with your typical cortisol body pattern. Okay. These are generalizations, but something we always think about is if you're having weight, where is the weight, right? Is it in your legs? Is it in your hips? Is it in your chest? Is it in your arms? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your back? Is it, where is it, right? How is the fat distributed? Can that tell us anything? So this is your classic cortisol pattern, okay? And the problem with cortisol is it is the survive now hormone. You can burn protein and sugar, but it doesn't let you burn fat. Which means if you are someone who runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and never stops, you'll run high on cortisol. Your body will never let you burn fat. And where are you getting the protein from? Most people are getting the protein from their own muscles. So you go, I wake up and I'm not hungry. Yeah, because you just ate your muscles for breakfast. This is a big thing we find is if you're doing intermittent fasting, usually 15 to 16 hours is about max for most people. And some people can't go that far. They have problems with building muscle. So we like intermittent fasting. We're going to do 12 hours, 12 to 15 hours. Most people can do pretty straightforward. But if we don't eat enough, we find your body just raises cortisol and then you just eat your own muscles. And this is a problem if you're trying to gain muscle mass and lose fat, right? Which is generally an ideal we're kind of running for. Okay. So you have to be careful sometimes with cortisol. Now, the hardest part about cortisol is people go, well, I'm stressed. And I go, yeah, but I don't have a vitamin for that. Okay. Now there are herbs, I get it. You can take ashwagandha, you can take redalia, you can take ginseng. There are these classic stress herbs, but I'm here to tell you that they're not going to work. This is almost always we have to change something in life. Okay. And sometimes that can be changed. Sometimes it's just, I got to get through the next 3 months and I can't, this thing is not in my power to change. When we talk about calories, we burn calories, we eat. This adjusts the calories we burn so that we can't burn fat. So if you're running high stress, you lose the ability to burn fat, which is a problem. Cortisol, you can only burn protein and carbs with high cortisol. You can't burn fat. Okay, stress, the other side. Okay. The other side of stress balances out with your sleep. So melatonin and cortisol work in a balance. And this is why they do studies like this. All right, so they did a study on sleep and weight, compared between people who sleep for a short period of time, 5 to 6 hours, compared to people who slept 7 to 8, compared to people who slept 9 to 10. And here's what's interesting. They found people who slept 7 to 8 had better weight. If you slept 5 to 6 or 9 to 10, you had more weight. 5 kilogram weight gain is about 12 pounds, 11 pounds, okay? So if you slept 5 to 6 hours or 9 to 10 hours instead of that 7 to 8 window, they found over an average of 6 years, you gained 11 pounds. You were 11 pounds bigger than your counterpart who was sleeping 7 to 8 hours, okay? Study provides evidence both short and long sleeper times predict an increased risk of future body weight and fat gain in adults. And there's multiple studies you could pull on this. Okay. Now, I do not usually get people in the office that I come and go, how you doing? Well, I sleep 10 hours a day. That's my problem, Dr. Warren. Almost always it's, we're pushing hard in life because we're Americans, and America in general has a very high value on productivity. The best compliment you give an American is you're so efficient. You're so productive. You get so much done in such little time. This is really valued in our country. It is not valued in every civilization in the world. And we would say that this drive for productivity is good in that it helps us accomplish a lot of things as Americans. But sometimes that accomplishment can come at a cost. And it comes at a cost of that same drive that we push to accomplish can create health problems as we age. And at some point we need to balance, okay, how hard can I push before I rejuvenate and take care of my body? Okay. We catch a lot of people who, I sleep 5 hours, wake up, drink a Red Bull and go. What's wrong with that? And this is really a problem that we get away with sometimes in our younger years. And then we get people who it just doesn't work for anymore eventually. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is like I said, this is a really hard one because usually this is one that if cortisol is your main problem, we're sending you to somebody else. Okay. I can help a lot of cortisol problems, but I almost always partner with someone. You need to see a pastor, you need to see a counselor, you need to see a marriage counselor, you need to see a personal counselor, you need to see, because there's something in life that needs to be adjusted. Okay. So this isn't always just nutrition. Now, from a nutrition standpoint, the way to raise cortisol, if I was trying to raise cortisol, is let your blood sugar crash all the time. Eat a lot of sugar and then go a long time without eating to where you are hangry. If you're getting the Snickers, I'm hangry, then you eat something and your mood improves. That's a problem. You need to eat in a way to avoid that big crash. And most often that always involves eating some kind of protein or actually eating more. This is what's sometimes confusing to people. Some people will eat less trying to lose weight, and then they get the cortisol problem, and then you can't burn fat. So sometimes we go, you actually need to eat more to lose weight, because starving yourself creates this huge cortisol problem. Okay. But if we're in the middle of a huge fight with our spouse, this is going to be really hard to make this health jump, right? If we're in the middle of a huge crisis with our kid, this is going to be hard, right? If you're someone who tries to solve everyone else's problems, this could be very difficult. So this is almost something we talk about in the office, and then I'm usually sending you to someone, somewhere, somehow, okay? Like I said, there's nutritional things we can do, but I tell people this is a nutrition and I don't know what the and is. That's something that, sometimes you have to see it though on a test and go, holy cow, your cortisol's a main problem, okay? I always think it's interesting though, sometimes we run the test and we find cortisol's not the problem. We find, nope, that's actually okay. There's something else, okay? Even though you're under stress, it's not that stress is your main issue. Okay, I'm gonna jump off stress for now. This one's a hard one because it's always something in life. We're always digging a little bit and going, okay, what's happening? What's going on in life, right? Okay, let's talk about estrogen. Estrogen, classically, we get weight here in the thighs, and sometimes in the glutes, and then sometimes in the chest for females, okay? Also in the chest for males. So as more and more men have estrogen problems, this is why that one of the leading surgeries for men is breast reduction in men. Okay. Now this again is a hard hormone for us to run through, but because it's a little complicated, but we typically ask, like, are you having other hormone symptoms? Do you have PMS? Do you have mood swings? Do you have abnormal cycles? Do you have hot flashes? Do you have heavy cycles? Do you have other symptoms that lead us down to hormone land? Do you have infertility? Do you have, what's happening with your other hormones that you know, right? If you're having these kind of problems, then we might jump more into female hormones. So this is an example. Actually, this is a patient that came into me about a week ago. Okay, so you don't have to know to read this test. Green usually means good, okay? And you want the thing to be between the stars. These are your three estrogens, estrone, estradiol, and estriol. You'll see they're labeled E1, E2, and E3. One of the mistakes we see people make is they don't just run all three estrogens. You kind of usually want to run all of them, see if there's a problem. Theoretically, E2 is your most dominant estrogen when you are cycling, and E1 is your most dominant estrogen after in menopause. So this is a female who, she had a lot of weight problems, specifically in hips, legs. Like she was literally like measuring her legs, and she was like, my legs have grown 2 inches each on each. I cannot, like my thighs do not fit in things, right? And she's like, I'm gaining weight. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening, right? And you'll notice here that there's these purple bars, and the purple bars are where your hormones should be when you're in menopause. This person is 64. Which means the estrogen marks should be in the purple, which means she has a whole lot of estrogen. It was in one of her makeups. Makeups and cosmetics do not have to label hormones legally. They can be in them without labels. So she had an exogenous source of estrogen that she had no idea about. And so we had to figure out which one it was in and get rid of it. Okay. But I just found this last week. We find this occasionally. I was like, so you have great hormones for a 30-year-old cycling female. She goes, but I'm 64. I'm like, that's the problem. That's the problem. So this one is interesting. I'm excited to see if we can get this down. Okay. But it's a good example of this being actually off and being high. In cycling females, you'll see it high in the red. Okay. Okay, here's another thing we get into. Chemically speaking, a lot of these chemicals we deal with are actually estrogens when you detox through your body. So we talk about plastics a lot. Plastics are absolutely terrible as far as a detoxification system mimicking estrogen. You really don't want to heat things up. Particularly, you don't want to heat things up in plastic. If you are microwaving anything in plastic, stop now, please, I beg of you. Okay. If you regularly drink coffee and you put the plastic mug on top, put the plastic top on, please find another way to do that. Okay. Anytime you're heating up the plastic, you're accelerating the amount you're getting. And we find it to be a huge problem for people. Similarly, this is my favorite guy, totally, no protective gear. We're just spraying stuff, right? A lot of the chemicals we deal with in food are actually estrogen mimickers, which means they start to throw off female hormones and we start to have weight gain associated with this. When we think about women going through puberty and having estrogen, where do girls put weight on? Right? Is there songs about guys' big butts? Right? So when we think about female distributed weight, we really have to wonder about some of these estrogen mimicking chemicals in our supply chain. And we find this to be a huge problem. You can run into chemicals that really cause some problems. Okay. Dirty Dozen, if you've never heard of this, Clean 15 lists updated. This is 2020. I think there's a 2021 version, but I still haven't updated my picture. But if you're getting any of these, you really recommend organic, right? The Clean 15 are things you don't have to get organic, right? Strawberry, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes. These are the ones that are worth getting so you can reduce some of that chemical load, okay? We would argue this is good for you anyways. And this is kind of the thing in our clinic is if we're having weight issues and we're going to talk about hormone issues, we want to get to the root and try to help make you be healthier. If you're eating less pesticides, it's probably good for you anyways, right? But these kind of things pop up more than you would want to know. Where we go, oh my gosh, okay, you have toxic levels of XYZ herbicide. Where's it coming from? Well, probably a food, okay? Unless you're spraying it yourself, but usually a food. If it's a guy, honestly, it's usually coming from the golf course. So it's not the guy who sprays the golf course that gets sick. It's the golfers or the lawn maintenance guy who gets sick. It's not the guy who sprays it. He wears protective gear. We find that's interesting. The lowest person I ever tested for toxicity was the Orkin man, because they know they're super safe with all of it, right? It's the people who are there after, the people who live there, that it's the problem. So, okay. All right, last but not least, I'm just going to go through testosterone. Now, I have a picture of a guy here. I know you talked a lot about females here, but classically speaking, for guys, as they lower testosterone, we have problems with muscle mass, right? Females need testosterone too, but guys need like 10 times or 20 times more than females, okay? Low lean body muscle mass, you do need testosterone to build muscle. It leads to depression, particularly in guys, low libido, and erectile dysfunction, okay? Now, guys, this is a fairly straightforward equation for guys. Here's the 4 rules of testosterone, okay? Exercise. You just can't live a sedentary lifestyle. It ruins you. You usually need some kind of intense exercise, okay? And you'll notice so many of these hormone issues are solved by eating some real food and moving, okay? But the research is pretty clear. I love it when you're doing things active like walking or gardening or things like that. But the biggest bang for your buck you get as far as your hormones is from intense exercise. And this is where someone like Pura Vida and Eric really come in well for us, because I need you to do intense exercise, but I also need you to not kill yourself, okay? So many people think they're Usain Bolt. So when they try to do insane exercise, they try to sprint like an Olympian, and then they're hurt a week later, and then they can't do anything for a month. And the ability to push it and to do workouts while not hurting yourself actually takes a little bit of skill. So you want to do challenging workouts and exercises. You also don't need to be that long. We tell people about an hour max is about what you want. Okay. You can go a little longer if you're doing like a warm up and a cool down or something, but you really don't need to go. People are like, oh, I need to work out for like 6 hours a day. It's like, no, you don't really need to. In fact, they can be shorter too. 20, 30-minute workouts work well if they're intense and kind of packed in. Okay. But a lot of times, a lot of classes are about an hour long, with a little bit of warm up, a little bit of cool down, and then there's kind of an intense period in the middle. We really like that. Okay. You really want variable. You do not want to go run for an hour at a steady state. It's the most inefficient way to exercise is a steady state where you're just doing something steady. Okay. But the key with variability is it increases the injuries, so you got to be smart about it. Okay, sleep, very clear, 7 to 8 hours per day. Food, this is a big one. Guys, if you want good testosterone, please do not drink alcohol more than 2 days a week. Oh, I have a beer every night. Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? And then food rule number 2, nitrogen is your friend. So I'm very blunt if I get a guy in the office, like, you want to have sex? Don't drink alcohol more than twice a night, eat nitrogen. And they always go, what's nitrogen? Yeah, in the green. is where nitrogen is, okay? If you want stuff to work well, eat green things. And that doesn't mean beer on St. Paddy's Day, right? When I phrase it like that, I actually get some compliance from guys. Just go, you'll feel better. Everything works better. You need the nitrogen. You need green things, right? And then they just start listing green things. They're always like, so is broccoli good? Yep. Like a salad? Yeah, uh-huh. Cucumber? Yep, uh-huh. Like, it's just like they're like running, they're just peas? Yes. Green beans? Like, yes. Like, we just like, if it's green and God made it, eat it, okay? That's kind of the general thing when we deal with this. This works well for females too, right? I mean, obviously I'm not going to sell people, but for guys particularly, most of the time when I get a guy with a hormone issue, we're doing this. Do you move? No, you sit too much. You're not getting exercise in. Do you sleep a reasonable amount? A lot of guys don't, and they haven't for a long time, so they're confused that they can't get up. It was never a good idea to sleep 5 hours a night, to stay up late playing video games. That was never a good idea, right? It's increasing the amount of time we have people staying up late watching Netflix or playing games. It's not, well, I just sleep less. That's not a good solution, right? Food, it was never a good idea to have a beer every night or have a wine every night. No more than 2 times a week. And then nitrogen is your friend. Got to have that. Okay. Now, this is not a bad slide for anybody. I mean, you could solve a lot. You could solve insulin problems this way, generally speaking, right? Could solve some stress problems this way, right? As far as fighting stress, having healthy exercise is terrific for stress. Sleeping is terrific for stress. So if we're trying to help insulin, this slide works. Testosterone, this slide works. Cortisol, this slide can work. It doesn't really work for estrogen, and it doesn't really work for thyroid. So this is where we kind of get into this catch-22 of like, well, it's good for you to exercise, it's good for you to eat healthy, but if you're having an estrogen problem or a thyroid problem, the problem gets to be is you're going to put a lot of effort into your diet and lifestyle. Not that that's bad, but you're going to put that effort in and get very little results. And that's frustrating. It's so frustrating to put that kind of effort in and be like, oh, I tried so hard and I just didn't get, what my friend got, or I didn't get what she got. I didn't get what I wanted to get out of that effort. And that's where I come in for so many people, is they're usually going, Dr. Warren, I tried. I did this program. I did a detox. I did an exercise, a Biggest Loser thing. I tried this and it just didn't work. And I don't know why. And I didn't sneak Snickers the whole time, I swear, right? And that's where I'm usually diving in and going, okay, well, why didn't it work? What broke down here? So was there a hormone problem? Was there a toxic problem? Was there what went wrong? Is there a thyroid problem we've missed? So most often when we're polling somebody in the office, I'm going, look, I need you to live that healthy lifestyle that we all know we need to do. But if you do it, it should work. And I come in trying to help people and go, why isn't that working for you? What is stopping that equation from adding up? So final thoughts. And once again, this is what we kind of covered. Thyroid controls metabolism. Stress, problem is you can't burn fat. Insulin tells you to store fat. Estrogen is a detoxification problem, telling you to store your fat. And then testosterone helps you build muscle. So that can be important to make sure you have enough and aren't just low. This is more of a problem for guys as it goes low, but can happen for women as well. So if you feel like you're doing your workout and just not getting gains, this is sometimes your problem, okay? Thank you. I'm Dr. Warren. I'll stick around for questions, but I try to keep it succinct. But I can dive more into any topic if anybody wants to ask further. Okay. Okay.
So, Dr. Warren, if I'm in menopause and taking like a Prem-Pro, which is a hormone supplement.
Yep, sure.
Should I try to wean off of that just as a typical progression of life?
So you shouldn't necessarily need hormone supplementation your whole time through menopause, right? And menopause is a normal event, but if you're in are you in the process of transitioning, or are you on the other side where it's?
I've been in menopause for a while. I just don't like the hot flashes, so I mask them with the estrogen.
So usually if we're getting hot flashes, we're saying there's some kind of a hormonal problem. Your estrogen is not zero in menopause. And so if you're doing some supplement to try and get it, you're going, okay, so why is my estrogen actually, it's actually probably too low in menopause. So you need a little bit of help. The most common reason for that is you're supposed to get estrogen from your adrenal glands in menopause because your ovaries are done. And so usually what happens if you have ongoing symptoms in menopause, it's your adrenal glands are worn out to make the estrogen. So it's not bad to do a supplement that can help smell the estrogen. You just have to be careful you're not doing too much. So if you do too much estrogen, the side effect will be you'll have the weight, right? So you're trying to balance that out. I know. I guess, should I just a little bit of my story? I was in school and I was just chronically sick. I missed like 300 days of school as a kid, which accounts to like, I missed like a year and a half of school I caught every virus known to mankind, gut problems. I was always underweight. That was my problem. When I got chronically sick in med school, I lost 40 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. I was 119 pounds. I was a college athlete. I could run a 4-minute 10 mile. After I was done being sick, I tried to run a mile. It was like 11 minutes and I thought I was going to die. Right. So I've been really sick, that way. I got married to my lovely bride. We were, I was in chiropractic school and she got mysteriously chronically sick, and she went from being an athlete to college athlete and to being like, we couldn't go for a walk without her like being dizzy and falling over. And so I got out of my normal chiropractic track of, I was going to work with athletes and work with knees and shoulders and hips and, all these things. And we got into kind of, chronic, weird, mysterious nutrition stuff. And that led to, hormones and Lyme disease and basically trying to take people who, for some reason, were having a problem that wasn't being solved and going, well, could I help you solve that problem? Could I help you unpack it, get to that root and find a deeper way to attack that? And that was, that's, 13 years ago, now, but that's, it's what happened to me. It's what happened to my wife. And so that's what we've spent 13 years really, doing is, okay, Dr. Warren, I have a problem and I can't quite figure out what's going on. And it doesn't seem to be quite surface level working out. Okay, let's try to unpack that problem and see if we can help you just live the life, the healthy life that we want you to live. It's really the goal. That's just a little bit about me. I probably should have done that at the beginning, but okay.
So maybe talk about like, what if someone wants to like start working with you, what would the first step be? If they want to dig deeper on something, what would the first step be?
Sure. So my clinic is Restorative Health Solutions. We have a website and you would just call to set up like a free 15-minute phone call. We do that. So if you want to ask something, you can ask it not in front of people. You can keep it private. And what we want to know in that call is like a short version of what's happening. And then we'll try to see if we think we're a decent fit for you. And we'll try to give you like a price estimate. And that's just so because most people for us are outside of insurance. Most people have tried their regular stuff, and that's kind of the way it usually rolls. We're covered by health savings and flex accounts, but if you're going to come spend your money with us, we want you to kind of know exactly what you're getting in for. We don't want you to be surprised. Most people, when they come in to see us, like our initial consult's about $300. We try to be really thorough, go through what's been going on, and then we're going to run some kind of test, and that's where the prices can really vary. We tell people spend between, $300 and $1,000 worth of testing. Just depends on how much you want to run and how many things you've had done already and, all those kinds of things. So it's just, we tell people, we kind of list, okay, here's the likelihood of what's happening. And then we kind of get to decide together, like, okay, how, where do you want to look? And that's a decision we kind of get to make together on a one-on-one basis. Yeah. So, but we try to do that free phone call for everybody, just so, it's a no obligation, easy. If you just have questions, you can just ask questions and we'll we'll just see if we can help you a little bit. Yeah. That's how our clinic goes. But we also try to offer info just so if the information can help you, we're happy for that. So.
Thank you. Did
Okay.
anyone else have other questions?
No thyroid questions? Usually I get at least one thyroid question. Okay. No questions about husbands? We don't have any? Husbands are usually not hard. They're usually just, it's hard to get them to do it. It's not hard conceptually, right? It's hard practically, not theoretically. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, all right. Well, have a good night, everybody. I'm going to go home.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Dr. Warren.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you later. I will put this, I'll put your website on our Facebook page in case anyone wants to on that and find you that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, went great.
Right.
I hope my mic was okay. We didn't really do a mic check before we started, so.
I think it was good. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. So I got to record this. That takes about an hour to upload a recording, but
Okay.
it'll be on this little groups page. So I think that was very helpful. And every time I hear this, it just simplifies everything more for me. So, but I like how you really just broke it down nice and clear today. So
Thanks. I tried to re-update it. I didn't want to give the same talk we gave a couple years ago. I was like, okay, let's update all this.
no, it was really good. Very clear, simple, specific, good analogies. I like those too. It's funny. So
Okay.
yeah, well, you go home and we appreciate you taking time for us. So
Well, thanks for inviting me. I always appreciate the invite. And tell Eric I say hi. If I make it down south, I'll try to bike with him. I haven't actually biked him in like 2 years now, but
okay.